Explosive details of the repurposing of the State Security Agency to advance the political battles of the Zuma administration have been revealed at the state capture inquiry. Former Safety and Security Minister Sydney Mufamadi yesterday described numerous special operations, including attempts to influence the media and to bribe judges. Mufamadi chaired the high-level review panel that investigated the State Security Agency. It found that the agency made millions of rand in monthly payments to former President Jacob Zuma between 2015 and 2017. Now, the Institute for Security Studies, Jackkie Cilliers, joins us now to unpack this story. And what a story it is to unpack, Jackkie. Good morning. Thanks very much for joining us on the AM report this morning. I suppose let's begin with this high-level panel into the State Security Agency. Established in 2018 by President Cyril Ramaphosa, is this the first we're hearing of the findings of that panel?
Good morning. No, the findings have been in the public domain for about, a year and a half, 2 years. They are explosive. Basically, what the Mufamadi report found is that South Africa does not have an effective intelligence system. We are entirely blind. The intelligence agencies had been captured for the factional battles within the ANC. And the recommendations in the report range from the sort of sense of frustration that in actual fact what South Africa had to do was disband the intelligence community, but a host of recommendations. Now, the original report was only released in a redacted version, a condensed version, but the Zondo Commission was given the full report. And it's very evident that it goes far beyond what any of us thought was happening within the intelligence community. So this is very serious stuff.
So in the public domain for over a year now, no action being taken in terms of arrests, further investigations?
No, the problem seems to be that the intelligence agencies, as they typically do, have appropriated themselves the right to do their own investigations. And so you have a commission of inquiry that has found a host of irregularities, and then the intelligence community, which is responsible for these irregularities, are themselves responsible for looking after and trying to prosecute and lift out the criminal activities. So nothing much has happened that we know about in the public domain. I think the other component that is also very serious is the extent to which Parliament has failed us. You know, in 1994, we separated the intelligence community into a domestic and an intelligence and a foreign agency, and these were amalgamated by proclamation in 2009. Parliament just sat back and allowed this to happen, and only the law on that was only passed in about 2013. And in the meanwhile, the intelligence agencies became entirely active in the internal factional fights, basically to keep Zuma in power.
So Jackkie, can you explain this to us as people who don't work in matters of security like you do? So Project Commitment and Project Justice, these were two different projects that were used either to give cash payments to the former president for his upkeep. They went from 2.5 million rand a month in 2015-16 to 4.5 million rand a month in the 2016-2017 financial year. And then Project Justice, its intention to recruit and handle sources in the judiciary to look out for Zuma's interests. To what end would the intelligence agency be repurposed in this way for a president who in 2017 was on his way out?
Well, what had happened, I only have the same information that you have from the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, is that Zuma, as a former head of intelligence within the ANC, really made sure that he appropriated the intelligence community within state when he became president, and also embarked on a process to make sure that the prosecuting agency and the judiciary were defanged and could not act against him. Now, we know from the days of Chippy Sheikh that Zuma was incapable of dealing with his own finances, and therefore borrowed and was given money from Chippy Sheikh onwards, and this did not change. And what had happened is that he appropriated through Minister of State Security David Mahlobo this payment of apparently 2.5 and eventually 4.5 million rand a year to appropriate himself. And then this was Project Commitment that you've referred to. And then Project Justice, as we heard about yesterday, was basically to influence negative perceptions around South Africa. It sounds exactly like what the National Party had done with the Citizen newspaper and these kind of things decades ago. And it really is absolutely amazing that with all our systems of accountability and so on and so forth, that Parliament failed us, and that none of this actually came into the public domain until yesterday.
So what happens now? Because, you know, all of these bombshells are dropped at the state capture inquiry by Sydney Mufamadi, but then he also says, you know, the money was apparently provided to David Mahlobo, who was the minister at the time, and, quote, we have no basis to say it was given to former President Jacob Zuma or it was not. So who testifies next in your mind at the inquiry?
Well, it should be President Zuma, but I can be sure that he will not. I think that we don't know what's going to happen next, but the evidence trial is really to try and prove that the money's reached President Zuma. Now, we know that he also received, or it was also alleged that he has received various payments from private security companies and boards that were served on, all completely illegal. And this process, I think, will only come to fruition. All the dots will be joined, to coin a phrase that has been used previously, with a final report on the Zondo Commission. Because what is evident is that there's quite a bit of evidence behind the scenes that the Zondo Commission at the moment has access to, but we as public do not have. The Zondo Commission, although it's asked for a further delay in finding, will hopefully provide some evidence. But in the meanwhile, South Africa effectively does not have an intelligence agency.
Yeah. You know, I want to hone in on another issue that you brought up earlier, Jaco, the fact that these bombshells that were dropped have so many echoes to how the apartheid government conducted its business, not least because of the repurposing of media organizations. And that relates directly, to Iqbal Survey's African News Agency. Incredible testimony there that some 20 million rand was paid to to ANNA by the State Security Agency in a matter of only months. What's your reading of the establishment of ANNA and what its actual purpose was?
Well, I mean, the impression one gets with that, and with you know, the TV agency that was established, is that what Zuma had done was to try and establish a parallel news agency that served the interests of his faction within the ANC. The evidence to firmly nail this to the wall has not been provided yet. But it's absolutely damning accusations that have been presented, to the extent that taxpayer money and the systems of oversight have been abused for factional purposes. And what this is in reality is the culture of secrecy and paranoia that was very evident, particularly within the intelligence agencies and Mponto Sizwe, came to reflect in the entire security of South Africa. And President Ramaphosa is struggling to untie all these challenges, whilst dealing, of course, also with COVID and everything else. So one's heart goes out to the issues that he has to deal with.
Jackkie, do you feel optimistic that these things are now out in the public domain, that they are being ventilated at the state capture inquiry? Do you feel optimistic that some grounds will be made, arrests will be made?
Yes, I think so. The former executive director of the Institute for Security Studies is, amongst others, being appointed as the Deputy National NDPA. So I think that we are seeing we're seeing the start of change. But destroying stuff, which is what President Zuma and his cabinet and his government did, is easy. rebuilding that, particularly in a time of COVID, with all the challenges that we face, is an immensely difficult challenge. And what we all need to do is to get behind the efforts by President Ramaphosa and others to try and rebuild the accountability that we spoke about so much in 1994, 1996, and that was destroyed by Zuma and his cohorts of criminals.
Jackkie Cilliers, thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM Report. He's with the Institute for Security Studies as we continue to unpack the bombshells and several of them that were heard at the state capture inquiry just yesterday.